So if you own an 07-18 Silverado and you're watching this video, then you probably understand quite well by now that your truck is rugged and it deserves a badass rear bumper, right? These armor rear bumpers provide more protection, especially if you go off-road or if you're at the work site, and they just look good. But out of all the bumpers available, why should you be looking at the RedRock Tubular 4x4 Off-Road Rear Bumper? Well, for starters, it's one of the most affordable options currently available, and what I like about it particularly is the fact that it actually kind of retains the factory styling, form, and function of the factory bumper. A lot of the other options on the page are more expensive, they're bigger, they're bulkier, and there are even some options that cost as much as the RedRock option, but they're still a lot beefier than this one. This one's a little bit more understated, a little bit more minimalist. It definitely follows the contours and the body lines of the truck a little bit better than some of the other options in my humble opinion. So overall, I think it looks the nicest. But as far as functionality goes, it definitely is up to par with all the other options currently available. It's made out of a thick tubular design with plate welded steel on here. That steel is about 1/8 of an inch thick. You get really heavy duty 1/2 inch thick mounting brackets, which makes it a bolt-on install, by the way. And on top of that, you have a nice stainless steel construction with a black powder coat finish on top. That black powder coat finish is a cured and baked on finish. It's not just a painted finish, so if you ever do get some light strikes or dings on this thing, chances are that finish will hold up just fine. And even if you do manage to hit this thing hard enough to take the finish off, you don't got to worry about that rust or corrosion underneath because, again, it is stainless steel. Now, back to that install. It is a bolt-on job. There's no cutting, permanent modification required. You can get this done with hand tools at home. So for that reason, I'm gonna give the install a modest 2 out of 3 wrenches on my difficulty meter. Pretty straightforward job. It is a little heavy though, so I recommend having a friend with you, or at least having some pole jacks or floor jacks handy. It shouldn't take you more than 2 hours to get this thing bolted on. Now, back to that functionality real quick. This thing's got a lot going for it. Optionally, you can install some light cubes here with these little mesh cutouts removed. Those light cubes are plug and play, by the way. They're specifically designed for the wiring harness for the Silverado, so there's no splicing required. But if you do not want to go with those light cubes, well, again, you got these nice little mesh cutouts here. Now, other cool things to point out here, the entire top of the bumper is technically a step, and they included these nice perforations on there. You also got some nice corner steps right here with perforations on the side. I'll get into that a little bit later when we pull the factory bumper off, and I'll show you guys a nice comparison. And that way you can also see how this thing kind of closely matches the shape and style of the factory bumper. So again, if you want one of the most affordable rear armor bumpers for your Silverado, you should be checking out the RedRock 4x4. And if you decide to go with this one, you can come back in just a moment. I'll show you guys what tools you need to get the job done, and then I'll walk you through the install step by step. All right guys, before we get started, you want to head over to our toolbox, grab 2 standard drive ratchets, and you'll also need a 10, 15, 17, 18, 19, and 21 millimeter socket. I would go with deep sockets just to be safe. You'll also need a 10, 17, 18, 19, and 22 millimeter wrench. And for wiring up your new license plate light, you will need some snips, and you'll also need a crimping tool. You'll also need a quick splice connector or a butt connector. Now, optional but helpful tools include an impact gun, an air ratchet, and some swivel sockets. All right guys, so to remove the factory bumper, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a couple of nuts and bolts. You'll need a 15, 18, and 21 millimeter socket, but before we actually loosen the bumper, we have to tackle a couple of electrical connections. Specifically, we have to unplug our trailer harness, and we also have to take out both of our license plate lights. You don't need any tools for those, it's just a couple of plastic retainers. Let's go ahead and give them a squeeze with your fingers, rotate them, and pop them free. All right, so we're actually able to pop the license plate out because we can't show you guys underneath the bumper, but in order to disconnect this real easy, just go ahead and twist, and the light bulb will come right out. All right, now that we have all those electrical connections taken care of, we can disconnect the bumper. We're gonna start with this bottom bolt here on the bottom frame. Really, you'll need your 21 millimeter socket for this guy. All right, next we're gonna unbolt the bumper from the side of the frame rail here. It's secured with one 15 millimeter bolt and 2 18 millimeter nuts. Now, keep in mind, once you remove this hardware, the bumper will be disconnected from the vehicle. It is a little heavy, so you wanna make sure that you have a friend holding it or jack stand supporting it. All right, once you've removed those 2 nuts, you can remove the double bolt plate from the other side of the frame. All right, once you remove that double bolt plate, you can remove that 15 millimeter bolt. If you're using power tools, I'd recommend using a short socket because it is a squeeze. All right, we got all those nuts and bolts removed and we're ready to remove our bumper. But before we do that, you want to take your time, right? Because there actually still is a wiring harness that has some Christmas tree fittings, some little plastic retaining clips holding it to the top of the bumper. So pull it out a little bit, just enough to expose that, and then with a plastic trim tool or with a flathead screwdriver or just with your fingers if you really want to, go ahead and gently pry those free. Once the wiring harness is free, then you can pull the bumper out of the frame rails entirely. All right, so we got our factory bumper removed. That way you guys can see a real comparison between both. And like I said earlier, as you can see, it does generally follow the form of the factory bumper, which I like, right? A lot of those armor bumpers are big and bulky, and they're actually a little bit more expensive because you're just paying for more material and more fabrication. I like this one again because it's minimalist. Now with that said, the new bumper is actually more functional than the factory one. The factory one does have a step across the top and in the center there, but this one's actually got perforations on it, which is nice if you got work boots on, snowing outside, you got mud on them, whatever, it keeps traction for you. You got that step in the middle still, but on the corners here, you got really nice small perforations as well. That just helps getting things out of the side of the bed. Now, as far as the bolt-on application goes, all we gotta do is throw these brackets in place. So let's go ahead and grab that hardware, and I'll show you what tools you need, and we'll get those brackets installed. Then I'll show you how to mount the new bumper on our frame rail. All right, so to get the brackets installed, we're actually reusing some of our factory hardware. We're gonna start off with that double bolt plate and those two 18mm nuts that we removed earlier. You're gonna slide the bracket in place, line all the holes up, then throw that little bolt plate in there, tighten that stuff down, and then I'll show you what hardware we're gonna be pulling from the kit. Now, when you tighten down this bolt plate here, this little plate might actually bend a little bit and it's gonna form itself around the bracket. That's okay, that's expected. And again, to tighten these two nuts down, you need an 18mm deep socket. And when you go to tighten this down, make sure you line up that back hole there so you can get that M10 bolt in there later. All right, in this rearmost hole, we're going to be using our M10 bolt. It's a 17mm hex head bolt. You'll need 2 flat washers and you'll need the appropriate nylon nut. Now I would put the bolt facing outward, that way you can put your wrench on the inside of the frame rail and you can get your socket on the outside. All right, for our bracket on the bottom here, we're gonna install this M14 bolt in the kit. These are the widest and shortest bolts provided in the kit. You will need a 21mm deep socket and a 22mm wrench to tighten these down. Make sure you have 2 of the appropriate size flat washers on either side before doing so. All right, with that bracket down, it's the same process for the other side. All right, so we're finally ready to throw our bumper in place. In order to secure the bumper to the bracket, you will need those M12 bolts with 2 flat washers and the appropriate nylon locking nuts. Now, this thing is heavy, so I got my buddy here, Scott, helping me out. What you want to do is have someone, a friend or a jack stands if you're in a pinch, hold the bumper up in place, line up the brackets and those holes, thread those bolts and nuts in there, and then I'll show you guys how to tighten those down. All right, now that our bumper has been secured with that 1 bolt and nut, we put the truck back up in the air. That way you guys can see what we're doing underneath here. Pretty straightforward stuff. You're just threading this bolt with the flat washers and the nylock nuts through the bumper bracket and the bracket that secures it to the frame. Now, to tighten this stuff down, you will need a 19mm socket and an 18mm wrench. All right, with our bumper secure, we can install the bracket for our trailer hitch plug. Now there are 2 plugs in the kit. You want the one that is shaped like so, because the other one is actually for a Ford style trailer plug. At any rate, you will need the M6 bolts provided in the kit. These are hex head bolts with 10mm heads, and you'll need a 10mm socket and wrench to tighten all this stuff down. All right, now we can install the actual trailer hitch plug. You want to press up on this little fin right here to unlock it and rotate it, and it'll fall right out of the bumper. All right, now the plug fits inside the bracket upside down, so you want to put it in right side up until it pushes all the way through, rotate it, you'll feel some tension on it. Then you want to make sure that it's vertical upside down. And once you get it seated vertically, it'll stay locked in place. All right, now the last step here is getting this license plate light in place. Pretty straightforward stuff. The plate itself on the light actually acts as the ground to the bumper, so all you need is to get power to it. Now to do that, we're going to splice directly into the factory wiring harness for the factory license plate lights. All right, so once you got the wiring completed for that license plate light, that'll wrap up the install. And that also wraps up my review of the RedRock 4x4 Tubular Off-Road Rear Bumper fitting your 07 to 18 Silverado. I'm Travis, thanks for watching. Keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.